talk about that on air also, if you don't mind.
You got
Yeah,
it.
I like the outfit too. It's very appropriate for the recording.
Thanks. Yeah, it's just like put together dad ensemble.
Oh, is it okay with you if we put this on YouTube?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Because you look great.
Thanks.
Okay, so hello and welcome to Moms of Flavortown.
Pew 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 pew.
We are back after a week hiatus. I was in the Dominican Republic. I am Rachel.
Rub it in a little bit. I am Debbie. I was not in the Dominican Republic.
Debbie was in the frozen north of New York. And I'm going to introduce a guest we have right now. It is the most wonderful time of the year. It is TOC season. So today we have a very special guest and friend of the pod. You know him from Next Food Network Star, Guys Grocery Games, and generally all over Food Network. And of course, as a correspondent on one of the linchpins of tournament, sorry. And of course, as a correspondent and one of the most important parts of Tournament of Champions, returning imminently, please welcome back the one and only Justin Warner.
Wow, thanks, gang. That was quite an introduction. I really appreciate it.
Rachel
You
writes
know,
the best introductions, I have to say.
and you know we love you here. We were so excited you were coming back. We talk about you all the time because since we've interviewed you, we feel like we have some like TOC gravitas now. We're like, well, Justin Warner talked to us about it. So
Exclusive. This is my first interview about TOC. I don't even know that it's been like approved by anyone, but
So we
um
actually talked to the Food Network PR team, and they were like, "Here's a headshot of Justin for you." So
really?
yeah, well, we were asking for screeners, and they said we didn't. We
they said, no way.
Got it.
Like,
Wow, I
here's
wonder who I wonder who it was. They're all my homies. Like I like them and like I don't know, I always consider that line of work like an alternative, a branched reality for me.
yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's what Debbie does. So if you ever decide to switch lanes, Debbie is there for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to know.
Uh, okay, so Justin, as we discussed off air, before we talk to you about all of the important things about your career and TOC, we want to go over a little bit of our very important segment called Flavortown News. Ba-doop, 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 ba-doop.
Is
Okay, so we
Justin.
exactly. Hey,
No, I'm
Leif,
Justin.
Leaf, clip that for future use. Okay, so first in the news, Sarah Bradley, one of our favorite people in the world, is a James Beard finalist.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all these people, I'm like shocked that they don't already have James Beard Awards because I'm like, obviously they should have one, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not spoiling anything by saying she's on the new season of TOC. That's already on Reddit, so
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It was on it was in that article you posted. And also Debbie and I did know a spoiler because we went to her restaurant and she told us before we should have known that she was on, like wink wink, but we kept the secret. So
I appreciate that. Well, this is,
But
in a very diplomatic and non-spoilery way, my response is she'll be one to watch.
yeah.
ooh.
All
I
right.
mean I have that specifically written down for later in the interview, but like Sarah Bradley is like such a powerhouse, right? Like she won that Chopped championship that was like a huge deal. It was like the biggest prize in Chopped history, I think. And she was like that was airing right after we went to her restaurant and she was talking about that. And I just think she's like one of the most impressive people in the world. I feel like she is gonna do really well on TLC.
Yeah, so on this season of TOC, it was my first time meeting her, and I kind of stay like an ostrich with my head buried in the sand. Unless it directly pertains to me, I generally don't consume a ton of food media. I just don't want to be clouded by the influencer or the trends of others. And I got to say, there's, as everyone knows now from the pressers about TOC, there's a lot of fresh blood being infused into the bracket.
Mhm.
And so it's always nice to be able to extend our circle of friends. And she was definitely high on the list of people where I'm like, wow, like welcome to Flavortown. Right? Like, what took you so long?
Yeah, totally. And I'm so glad that she's in it because she's just exciting to watch in general. Her brain just works so well in these competitions.
And right after we started this podcast was when Top Chef World All Stars aired, where it was like her second season. And our whole concept is that we're moms and we watch food TV. And she was pumping breast milk on TV, and we were just like, wow, she's just an icon in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, I think I might have heard tales about that, and I
Yeah.
was as someone where I guess my kids too now, but that's not a distant memory for me, that
Yeah.
that period of time, so yeah, icon for real.
And on to our next piece of news related is Top Chef season 22 is going to Canada, which we knew already, but they announced the premiere date, which is going to be in March, right in the middle of TOC, me and Debbie's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I got one thing to say to you. Sorry.
We actually
Uh,
might even record double episodes to deal with it because holy shit, that's gonna be a pain.
Yeah, a lot of
TOC and
goss.
Yeah.
TOC and Top Chef are like the two shows that I think we recap that people care about, like that's like our bread and butter. And if only they were 6 months apart, it would just make our podcast so much better.
Something tells me that someone far more powerful than I wishes that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just like to me, those are the two like premier food competitions, right? Like I prefer, and no one cancel me. I prefer TOC to Top Chef personally, because TOC is like the culmination of all the seasons of Top Chef I've watched. Right, like I see so many people. It's like my fan fiction or whatever, and I
Yeah.
love it. But like Top Chef is like such like one of like the foundational shows, and it has also like an appeal past the people that watch Food Network, uh,
I just
which
want
like
me to understand that like they're not in like they can exist as separate times and separate things because they're completely different kinds of TV. I mean, it's not like they're in competition in any way.
do you watch any Bravo, Justin, beyond Top
Uh,
Chef?
yeah, it has been at certain times the background noise of my life.
Yeah. Like, and I complain about this often, but like, I blame Andy Cohen personally that he stacks all the Real Housewives seasons on top of each other too. It's like, what are you doing, dude?
Letting you binge, like gorging you, like, saturate, there's like not too far, it's not too far difference from like saturate and smother,
That's
so like how do you keep people from talking about them while they're also talking about them, you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah.
just it must be a lot to digest for anyone.
Yeah.
We are a below deck household over here.
I
Have you
get
seen
that.
that show?
Yeah, definitely. I was always like I always kind of LOL'd at the like culinary aspects of that show because like whoever is cooking, the chef is always like definitely a part of the crew, and like dinner service is always such like a crux in every episode. And I'm always just like, oh my God, guys, like I don't know, like Doc can get takeout for God's sake. You know what I mean? But there was
Like,
like this must be a spectacular meal. And then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it was done in a galley. Like not bad, but
Right.
like I feel like could I also have an RV cooking show? Because that's what it feels like to me,
Yeah.
you know?
well,
Well,
they everyone on that show has to be like an antisocial person, basically, because you have to like want to live outside of society, and then the chef especially is like just like doing like he's like I work alone, you know?
Yeah, for real. Not to be like super nerdy, but it's like, the little critters that maintain Cloud City in Star Wars, They're called Ugnaughts, Like they like only see camera action when it's time to freeze somebody in the carbonite chamber,
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm just kidding. I would never have thought that, but I love it. Okay, so on to our next piece of Flavor Town news. I almost said Bachelor Nation news, which is the other thing that consumes my waking life. Is that podcasters can now apply for White House press credentials. Are you going to see me and Debbie at the briefings?
I mean, I've hosted a podcast, like let's all go, Parents of Flavortown, the merger.
Oh,
yeah.
Everybody's doing it.
All
I
right.
mean,
I know there's like some merging of the Top Chef podcasting Food Network worlds that are
Oh yeah.
It would
uh
be pretty easy to acquire my podcasting. Like, given that it's like me sitting in a very crowded desk with an NA beer, you know?
Oh yeah. So tell us. You mentioned it before we started, but tell us about your non-alcoholic beer that you're drinking right now.
Oh yeah, really don't know much about the history, other than we're probably gonna have to pay more for it soon because it's from Canada. And it's got a cool name. It's called a Nonny, and I've always like referred to NA beers as Nonnies.
Ooh.
It tells you what hops it uses, gives you a lot of like description of what's going on, and ultimately, it tastes very like um, like a craft pilsner. So therefore, like a muted craft pilsner, like a craft pilsner without alcohol tastes like the kind of beer that I normally want to drink with alcohol, which is an
Mm,
uncraft pilsner.
mm,
And so I was going to drink we have this big non-alcoholic fun beverage case at our wine bar, and I was going to drink a kombucha, but I was just like, no, this isn't a kombucha crowd, But also, like, I have to like go pick up my kid, and I don't want to get started too soon.
right, of course, of course. I always love like um in between my first and second kid, the boom of excellent non-alcoholic beers kind of just happened, and I was really appreciative because I love to sip on a beer. And I still, even though I drink, I still love a non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wish I would have been like raised from an early age that non-alcoholic beer was soda and that alcoholic beer was like when you're 21.
Right.
Because I would then have probably more of an appreciation for a non-alcoholic beer, whereas like now it always just feels like ho hum, like.
Right. This is
And when
what.
in reality, like the reason I like it is because it scratches the liquid bread itch, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I am one of those people that can like I not only drink carbonated, but like I love a carbonated beverage. It gets me to drink more liquids if it's
Yeah. I
carbonated.
mean, water is a sustenance product, Like
Yeah.
it's there to keep you alive, not for like celebrating much.
Right.
That's so elitist and obviously not true. Water's amazing and believe it or not, a finite resource.
And
Um,
I'm
but
drinking
yeah,
water right now, believe it or not.
but the,
Um,
the the human touch of effervescence, boy oh boy, does
Yeah.
it go a mile?
Well, so I am sober, which I think is common knowledge, but who knows? And I actually don't drink non-alcoholic beer. I like never got the taste for it. And there's like this like silly sober saying, which I don't totally agree with, but it's a non-alcoholic beer is for non-alcoholics is a thing that people say. I think I'm probably far enough away now, but like the idea, I guess, is that like, if you're like newly sober and you have a craving, it's just gonna make you run out and get a beer or whatever, kind of like how vaping always made me smoke, but I know that they're very good now. I've just never gotten in the habit.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can understand that, and as someone who's definitely danced with that devil, all of them actually. It was like honestly looked like a Bollywood for a minute.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Just dance with all them damn devils.
Yeah.
I think there might be some truth to that saying, because yeah, it does kind of taste like I don't know, liquid unsalted saltines,
Mm,
which
Yeah.
does not sound good, but scratches my itch, darn it.
it,
I was always like just like a Bud Light drinker. Bud Light shot of crappy whiskey. That was how I as many shots as possible per beer.
I
Wow.
So,
did I go in your Brooklyn days to the Levee?
oh yeah,
Oh
of
hell yeah.
Yes.
course.
Like that was like all of their beer shot combos that like
Yeah.
Well,
brought.
and the way that they would like tailor them, where it was like a
Yeah.
Corona and a tequila, and it's
Oh
like one
yeah.
dollar more because it's like important. But it's like, which form of regret do you want?
Right.
And like, how
Right.
how fancy is your hangover going to be?
My favorite was their Gatorito, which was tequila and Gatorade.
Ah,
Yeah,
and their Frito pie was delicious, and it was great drunk food at
It
the levee.
still exists. It's still open. John and I went, well, maybe, I don't know. We went a couple of years ago. Time is whatever time is right now, but um proud of the Levy for staying in business still. So
And let me do our one last piece of very related Flavortown news before we get to our actual hard-hitting interview questions. And that is that Andrew Zimmern, TOC judge in past seasons, posted that he was 33 years sober the other day on Instagram and shared his coin. And I had no idea he was sober. It's so cool to me. I love seeing like a judge who's like he's often a judge on food shows because like I was like, are you allowed to be sober and be on one of these shows? Because there's always someone being like, and I have a cocktail on the side or whatever. Justin, do you have any experience with that? With what people do if they don't drink in that situation?
So in some judgings, just because it is a hard-hitting personality, um, and we value their culinary import so much to overlook the fact that maybe they do or do not consume things.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, contestants will be informed someone does not do this or someone has an
Mm,
allergy to this.
Cool.
So we're not going to tell you who because we're not here to like out someone with their preferences or whatever. But like chefs, unless you'd like to go home, it's in your best interest. You don't do this.
Right.
ah,
And they're not going to show that behind the scenes because that's just like rumor millie type stuff, and they do that in what we call rules, which is where cameras are resetting, characters contestants, will like get with the culinary producers to go over like what we mean when we say stacked and
yes.
jacked.
Mhm. Oh, I think we lost you, Justin.
Let's just wait a second, hopefully.
Did I lose you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back. So you cut out when you said this is what we mean when we say stacked and jacked, which was a great quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So you know what I mean? It's just like that is subject to interpretation, and we let you know what the interpretation of it is in advance. So, you make one pancake, not stacked and jacked. You make a bunch of mini pancakes on top of each other that's stacked but not jacked. We're talking big pancakes, lumberjack feast, 3 feet tall, stacked, jacked.
Okay.
What is
And
on the jack?
no
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
and no alcohol because one of the judges is sober, and that's
Yeah,
when
you
they would
got
say
it.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
awesome.
yeah.
I just love that because it's like as like, a person of sober status, it's very cool to see like someone who I have watched on TV for so many years and I had no idea he was sober. And then like, wow, judges, they're just like us. So that was very cool.
Yeah, he's an incredible person. His story is incredible, but it's not mine to share.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and that's one of the things, like, not to be too cute about it or whatever, but like the type of people that I hang out with in my sobriety, they share those things when they want to, and it's very cool, like to not, that to the when you don't know, it's like even cooler, kind of, and like when you just find out at an opportune moment.
Yeah.
So it's very awesome. Okay, so now let's get into the actual interview part of the questions. So, since last time we saw you, a lot has happened. First of all, most importantly, of course, I came to South Dakota and went to your restaurant.
Yeah.
Uh, my husband got to meet you. He loved the ramen. How was meeting me and my husband for you, Justin?
Amazing. It's always great to put another 2/3 with a person, when you've just seen the headshot. And it's also great to have an interaction that isn't, this has a format, right? And I guess dining has a format too, but, it's just cool to like hang out and vibe and like, gravity exists and, maybe there are bugs, and like there's weather and,
Yeah.
there's a lot. And also South Dakota is such an interesting place where I don't believe many people have a lot of experience and I don't even think there's even a lot of great information out there as to what to expect. And so I don't know, it's fun being in a remote location. Sometimes I feel like an NPC in a video game, like I'm just here to help you on your way and my text will be highlighted in bold, like if it's key information.
Right.
Well, so you gave my husband bought a shirt from your restaurant, and
Yeah.
we went to Montana after. And in Montana, someone recognized him and was like, "I love that restaurant. That's so cool." So we felt very cool to like be in the area, like in the radius that like people are like very aware of your restaurant. It was really awesome.
Right. I'm impressed with myself given the lack of population density. So, there's like that means there's like at least one Bokujo fan per like 500 square miles. Like that's great. Like well, we're approaching saturation.
I thought that Rapid City was awesome. We really liked it. You know what was weird was Wyoming. Wyoming was like they have this thing that they don't like tourists there, right?
I mean, I'm not a
Sorry,
spokesperson
not to
for
make you speak.
Wyoming, but I can understand that you may have had a gruff interaction or two.
It's beautiful though. Sorry, not to but yeah, Rapid City was awesome. We loved it. Anything new at your restaurant?
Oh God. We added a second karaoke room, which is pretty rad.
Yes.
I think since then we got a second pinball machine, which is doubly rad.
Who was the
Um,
pinball machine?
we have Godzilla and Venom, both made by Stern, and I have the high score on them both. And if anybody beats them, it's a one-way ticket out. Um, so that's been fun. The new karaoke room is Nintendo themed. So I kind of collabed with some local like gaming people,
Hmm.
and we have a bunch of like retro memorabilia that like you don't see. Like you might be able to see it at like a display in the Nintendo World Store in New York, in Rockefeller Center. But like you just don't walk into a ramen shop and see like, a 1984 ROB or a pre-Brady Bill Zapper,
Oh,
like let alone in spades. And amongst other things, So really it was just like an opportunity for a couple of dudes that I hang out with to like de-hoard their house a little bit.
yeah.
Ooh.
And yeah, I don't know. People really seem to be into it. Other than that, I'm sitting in a new space that we're working on developing. We have some ideas, but none that I'd like to put out there just yet. And gosh, what else? BB's the wine bar did this crazy Salvador Dali dinner where Salvador Dali has a cookbook. It was published by Taschen,
Yes.
and it's not some. This is just my interpretation. It seems like someone said like Dolly, you sure do love food. Like give us the names of all the food and we'll try and track down the chefs that made it for you, regardless of like how debauched it was when and like what sort of phase you were in of what is, you know, uh perfect for Dali, and like so we made like crazy stuff. Like he has this dish where it's like a bush of crayfish, and so it's this like looks like a red Christmas tree of crayfish and they're draped down over each other and we're like how did anyone do this, and like because what it looks like is that someone impaled like potting foam, like topiary foam or something. Have you ever seen this for like weddings where it'll be like shaped like a spiral and you poke the flowers into it
Mm.
or something like that? That's what it looked like, but with crayfish. And I was like, this is the most absurd thing. We got to do it.
Yeah.
um So I figured out how to make like this bush of crayfish using rigid chicken wire. You use it for like keeping deer out of your plants. And yeah, I like snipped the legs off of it and figured out how to poach everything all together. And so we like unveiled this giant, tree of crayfish amongst other completely weird and insane recipes. We tried to stay as true as we could to Dali's recipes, as true as we could deform, but also like you had our stamp of approval that it would be palatable. We didn't go so far as to say delicious,
Yeah.
but like you weren't gonna retch from the pork brains and avocados.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like it's a gorgeous, gorgeous cookbook, but it is like completely bananas.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
did
go ahead.
did you have like a party and you served these dishes to like a crowd, or what was the presentation of them like to people?
So it was just this wackadoodle private event, no information given to you other than you'll leave, very fed and pretty drunk, and um, this is the ticket price and this is the source material. And so it was kind of fun because we didn't really have a ton of time to R&D things, and we had to, we live in South Dakota, so I can't just like source random things from random places. He has a recipe where it's like three good truffles. And I like text my buddy Rocco DeSpirito, TOC judge and, food commentator, and obviously world renowned chef. I was like, hey, bro, look at this recipe. He's like, three good truffles. That could be $30 or $3,000. So, anyway,
Well, that
Well,
sounds awesome.
yeah, I need to sign up on your mailing list because I that would be a reason to fly out to South Dakota for sure.
if we had one, we'd tell you to.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So how do people know? Just word of mouth.
Instagram.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're already signed up for that. So
Great.
awesome. And we also saw you, since last time we talked to you, on Guy's All American Road Trip. You made ramen and your famous salad for Guy, Antonia LaFaso, and about 100 more people at a campground.
Yeah.
What was like the challenges of filming that?
Okay, so it's out of my Jeep. I don't have like a catering team or a catering bus. And I also don't just have like spare staff that I can be like, hey, it's a ride along, like, drive an hour to Spearfish and let's do this, So it was literally myself, and his kind of director of like mobile culinary operations, Cesar. And like Cesar and I go way back. So anyway, we just banged it out and like knocked it out, assembly lined the whole thing. You could like you grabbed your noodles, you picked your broth, Yeah, I opted for cold ramen and it was perfect. Like it had been like kind of a scorcher of a day. And like cold ramen is like textured Gatorade. Like it just restores you and nourishes you in a way that like vroom, like I'm ready to go. And I mean that was pretty much it. It was just like getting all of that stuff and like, driving through South Dakota with like liquid, like that's always going to be a risk,
Yeah.
starts, stops, trains, animals, wildlife, a right turn. Uh, so yeah, we just did it, and it was a blast. I'll tell you though, on that show, we took him fly fishing as well, and that was the most mortifying thing in my life because I can get salt down to a milligram. I can portion stuff out and follow a recipe that I created to a T.
Mhm.
Um, but like fishing has no recipe. Like at best, it's a very well informed guess. But
Mhm.
like something could go wrong, and all of these people are fishing and nobody catches fish. And like that to me is like one of the most like tightrope things that I've ever done in my TV career. Was like I swear I can take you guys fishing,
Right.
and everybody's gonna catch. I mean, I had help from the local Dakota angler and outfitter, and they are amazing guide service, amazing fly shop, and they tricked everybody out with the rods and the waders and that sort of thing. Um, but in general, it was like, Warner, are you sure you can do this? And I was like, I don't know, man.
Oh my God. I would be so nervous.
Yeah, but I mean, the second you hear fish on, and then the second you hear somebody else say fish on, now
Mhm.
all of a sudden your head's in the headspace of catching fish. You see the possibility, but like it's like when you walk into fishing with like hesitance or doubt,
Mhm.
like you're gonna have a pretty bad time.
Did you ever like when you've gone fishing, have the cameras ever been an issue as far as like I don't know, like do they don't make noise, but like I don't know, like I'm just trying to think of like any
No, I mean the main thing with shooting fishing stuff is that if you're shooting, you're not fishing, and that can be irksome to some, especially people who like to fish.
Mhm.
But and then the other thing is you always have to be rolling. Like you're going to be burning up data, and wiping cards and swapping cards, and you're going to be doing it quickly. If I was going to be shooting, I would have, and it was just me shooting a friend. I would have one camera on, and when that camera was three-quarters full, I would have the next one on, and then I'd be deleting that one and listening. It's just because you never know when something crazy is going to happen or when you're going to be out there all day long and have nothing to show for it. So, I mean, that's it. They, in general, it doesn't interfere. Like you would hope that, I mean, everybody's being like respectful of nature and that sort of thing. You're like, you know, leaving no trace and that sort of stuff. In general, we try to not what we call spot burn,
Mhm.
and the film crew was very respective of that. Like, you'd have to be a pretty smart angler to know where we were.
Mhm.
So we just try not to like, say, hey, this is the spot to go because there are people here that like, work to clean up our streams. I'm volunteer occasionally when I can. You know, and I'm not saying they deserve first right to fish anywhere, right? It's public land. Everyone deserves to be there all the time with equal demand. But you know, at the same time, like nobody likes to see a well-known secret
Yeah,
turn
Mm,
into not a secret at all.
sure.
totally. Did you get to like hang out at for any of the rest of the trip at all after like the 2 days that you filmed or the two things that you filmed?
Yeah, I got to go to Mount Rushmore, my first time out, like past the parking lot
Hmm.
with Guy, which was pretty wild.
Awesome. Yeah, we did not go to Mount Rushmore when we were visiting because it just seems like a whole thing. Have
Yeah,
you so yeah.
yeah.
So if
Uh
you want to go without it being a whole thing, in Williamsburg, Virginia, they have like a scaled down version of it. Just
Weird.
pro tip. I
Cool.
think that's really weird.
we did like the other stuff in that park. What's the park that it's in?
I mean, it's in Black Hills National Forest, so
Yes.
yeah, anywhere around there, yeah,
Yeah,
is
so we
also awesome.
yeah, so we just like drove and saw other rocks that did not have presidents in them.
Imagine.
Okay, so on to TOC 6, the biggest event of our year. So you posted in Reddit, where we love to go and see you, the Variety article that like announced like a lot of the cast and everything when it first came out. And we know from that article that you are back for TOC 6, but things have been shaken up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're now being joined by Tiffany Faison on the floor. How was that? Like it was different, right?
You know, when someone who has already won the show is now going to be my counterpart colleague, um, I'm like, cool. Well, they understand. You know what I mean? Like, I might be somebody who's studied the game, but I've never played it. Like, I don't have a Super Bowl ring. You know. But that being said, I've seen every I've seen every single game of TOC, every
Right.
battle. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the only other person who's been there longer is Guy and Simon, right? And equally, right? So anyway, I just said, Chef, you know, welcome to the dance floor. Here is what I don't think most people understand about this job.
Hmm.
And if you have any further questions, hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And that's it. Otherwise, like, you know, we're not going to be the same. There is no method of doing this. Like, you can't have two color commentators and you can't have two analysts, right? You need an analyst and a color commentator.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, Simon and I did a good job of kind of tossing that sort of analysis and color back and forth at each other,
Mhm.
which is why I think it worked out well. And Tiffany, you know, she didn't need anything from me, but she asked me a couple questions, and then we got on the dance floor and we did the dance. And you would only hope that we just kept getting better and better and better and better.
Cool. Yeah.
Is she wearing suits?
Oh man, Tiffany's wardrobe, no spoilers, man, but like y'all take notes is what I'm saying. Like Tiffany's wardrobe was just like so incredible.
I'm imagining her in a very dapper suit, but I guess we'll have to see.
You will have to see, but the in terms of casting her, like you can yes, it's different, and yes, Simon and I are like the same but cut from different cloth.
Yeah.
I think you will see a very similar, you know, it's like we're all from the same paint swatch, we're just different shades.
Yeah, because
Uh-huh.
that's what when we first heard the news, we were talking about this on a previous episode where I was just like, we were talking about that exact thing. Like, I didn't know if Tiffany had that kind of encyclopedia knowledge of things. Like, she's obviously very talented and smart and knows what she's doing, but like that kind of like brain I never noticed from her. So it would be cool to kind of see, how that feels different.
Yeah, I think the thing is when, you know, it's difficult when you're competing to demonstrate um, a vast, like you need to know, like if you were a mechanic and you drive a Volvo and your mechanic starts talking about Fords,
Mhm.
you'd be like, focus,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And so like if someone is competing and they're displaying like a wealth of knowledge,
Mhm.
it's like focus, like you've got a job to do, be ferocious about that. And you know, sometimes if you look back at like some of the competitions I've done, like yeah, in the interviews I'll say some reason why that makes sense or is like an obscure reference.
Mhm.
But in general, like it's very easy to be nerdy and to wax poetic about things when you don't have your hand in a lamb,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Great point.
So when we were reading the article, it was like a roller coaster, right? Because like there's so much info and like every sentence is like a new reveal. So like when I first read about Tiffany, I was like, "Oh my God, did they fire Simon?" And the next sentence is like, "Simon is now a judge's correspondent." What does that mean?
okay, so Simon, you could probably email him and he can tell you his own story. But that job is strenuous. Like it's strenuous for the brain, it's strenuous for the mind, it's strenuous for the legs, the soul, the everything. We walk in and we see this new batch at 36 chef and everybody thinks they're going to win. And as seasoned
Mhm.
veterans, we're just like, cool, enjoy your day.
Yeah.
Because odds are, like, and that's just very difficult to like be buddy buddy and just watch people like, hit the bug zapper.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what it's like after a while is, every single battle somebody goes. So we hear that bug zapper go off 4 times a day.
Mhm.
Mm.
And, bug zappers are alarming if you've never heard one. But
Mhm.
when you've heard 6 seasons of all them bug zappers,
Yeah.
you're just like, okay. So anyway, Simon has moved on to be a judge's correspondent, which essentially means is like, if you've ever had any questions about why a judge said, thought, felt, whatever, this is Simon's going to get a little bit more insight into that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Judging needs to have oomph, and in the storytelling and in the edit of it, you need to hear the tickling pianos of praise, and you also need to hear the huge thuds of bombs being dropped.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, we don't get an opportunity to say, yeah, but why?
Mhm.
Mm.
You have to hear, my chicken is raw. Boom.
Yeah.
But you can't say like, how raw is it? And like, well, but haven't you had raw chicken in Japan, chef? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think the idea is that it's going to be a little bit more informal and a little bit more of a casual understanding of the judge mentality. That
So,
and Simon ordered them to be able to have champagne during the thing, and they would never all finish the bottle of champagne. So Tiffany and I would take it.
oh,
Yeah,
wait. So here's my question. Are
yeah.
you and Tiffany not presenting the dishes to the judges anymore?
No, we
Or
are.
okay, and then after you present them, then Simon is talking to them.
No, so we present the dishes to the judges. Judging happens. Everybody leaves the set. Judges go back to their trailers. Simon says, "Hey, join me for a chat."
Oh, okay.
Mm. I like
Meanwhile, back in somebody else is going down in flames, and then I'm
Okay.
back on the dance floor and we do
Okay.
it all again.
That sounds awesome. So, how much of what the judges actually say in the arena do we see? Like, what percentage of that makes it the edit?
Not a lot because we try and, as far as I know, look, I'm not in the edit bay and I'm not a producer, but generally, like as somebody who has judged on TV shows before, you need to give them enough wiggle room that you're not repeating what the person next to you said, which is what judges do all the time.
Mhm.
If you are repeating what they say, you're saying it in different ways.
Mhm.
And then also, we have to create some degree of stakes. So you need to give enough information that it's not just like, well, obviously this person is going home, you
Right.
know?
Hmm.
I mean, unless you have raw chicken, in which case, like, sayonara, But in general, that's kind of what we're going for. I saw the show described on like whatever Max or whatever we stream on these days as nail biting.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And like that's because of judging.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Totally.
And because of the delay when guy, the winner is,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
it takes a second to come up on the screen and it's nail
Onions,
biting.
but
They always make you wait the commercial break to see
yeah.
it, and it's that's going to happen, but it still is so frustrating every time.
But I mean, you'll sit through the commercials and
Oh yeah. So
that's that's kind of the how we stay on the air. So I
uh
can't say that it's the worst model I've ever seen.
so last year you told us that TOC five would shock us. You're like, it's shocking. And then the whole time we were watching, we were like, is that what was shocking? Is that what was shocking? Is there any specific moment in TOC five that you thought was like extremely shocking?
Or is there another word like shock
Yeah.
you could describe?
I don't remember what happened in TOC 5.
Well,
Um,
Manit won and was
I
the
mean, that's
double
pretty
winner.
shocking. Pretty
Yeah.
shocking. That did not, if you thought this was rigged or there was a narrative,
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I
not
mean,
good for the
yeah.
narrative.
No,
Right.
I mean, we love Manit. We're Manit stands, but we were both kind of pissed when she won
Yeah.
because you want to see a new young person rise to the top. Or I mean, Antonia, we want to see her win so bad.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like we yeah, we document what's happening.
Right.
Like there are shows, I know there are shows where the results are fluffed or
Yeah.
manipulated, or it would be better for story if so and so.
Hmm.
Hell, I don't even know if my Food Network season of Food Network Star was like that. I don't know. Allegedly, America voted on mine, so but also who knows?
Magic.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't claim that I've ever been a victim or I've been a participant or whatever. But I
Hmm.
just know that some shows are like that. But like if it wasn't obvious before in TOC,
Yeah.
like that there's your proof right
Yeah.
there.
Like
Well,
that was crazy. I think didn't Tobias not finish a dish and then that's why he got like there were like certain moments
no,
of
that,
it.
that was Madison Cowan, right? 1 year.
Oh, was that?
That was
Sorry.
Yeah,
previous a previous year where when he burned his hands and
yeah.
couldn't get something on the plate. Um I
Something
do
happened.
feel like in TOC 5 maybe we did have somebody not get something to the plate. But
Yeah.
there weren't
I
any
think so.
DQs.
Yeah.
It's just
I
so
mean,
tough for me.
because you have so much, you see so much content day in and day out.
Yeah, like if I was standing on the TOC dance floor right now, I could probably give you a little bit better of a recap.
Yeah.
But like I keep that brain in a jar,
Yeah.
next to the Jardinera.
And that was
So
like a year ago at this point too, right? Like
yeah, I
I'm
guess.
sorry, say that last part.
you taped like a year ago at this point.
Almost. It was in like September.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but
Uh,
TOC 5, yeah, we taped that like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I mean, yeah, it might as well have been 10 in my books.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already interviewed a few people who are on TOC 6. Carlos Anthony, we
Hmm.
interviewed, and I mean, I know he's in the qualifiers. He can't tell us anything else about it.
Yeah.
But we were supposed to interview him like for the day TOC aired, and he like sent us a selfie from the set. We were like, ah. And then we just interviewed Britt a couple days ago. And yeah, so we're really excited. We love TOC, and there's huge names this season. So, like, there's some of the normal people, but Sarah Bradley, we already talked about. Rocco Despirito is competing this year.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
think that Rocco, like, he's incredible. He just doesn't stop. He doesn't stop being Rocco. And Rocco's somebody who's like, "Ah, I'll give it a shot again this year. Maybe I'm feeling, a little spicy or something." And, he just does it, and who wouldn't want that, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. Like people that have previously judged who are now competing, to me, that's like really cool because like that shows I think that people really want to be on TOC, right? It's like a
Oh, yeah.
prestige show at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was like I can't do multiples of 16 past like 128, but whatever times two of that, we still could fill it.
Oh,
It's just you would be watching it for a year and it would take 2 years to edit and
yeah.
like the seeding, would be irrelevant. We
And
would
you would
just be
never
like,
see your son.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was
But
like
like that
Um,
being said,
like
like I told Guy and like Guy loves Vegas. It was like Guy, like this show needs a residency in Vegas and like
mhm.
ooh.
who cares, if people have to sit for an entire day to see the results, put a bar outside of the auditorium, get some good food in there, and like UFC it.
That'd
Dude,
be so cool.
real. I feel like I would definitely come out to anything that was kind of like that. Because it is thrilling. It's
Yeah.
obviously see the whole thing being taped, but um yeah.
And we saw the qualifier lineup, and the qualifiers have like so many people that you would think would just be shoo-ins for the regular bracket. And that's how you know it's like stacked, right? Is that like all these people need to, and so last year you were not in the qualifiers. This year you are also doing correspondence for the
Yeah, yeah,
qualifiers.
there is actually a little hiccup in terms of scheduling. So I do qualifiers with Hunter
Hmm.
Okay.
and and
Hmm.
Okay.
then
And
we
then
go into the
Tiffany
main
starts.
bracket and then Tiffany is there. And that'll all come out in the wash. Or it won't.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
but like we had to make a last minute pivot based on some scheduling.
So we were big fans of Last Bite Hotel. Did you watch that show?
I saw previews for it and I wanted to I wish I would have been on it.
I
It
mean,
was
I'm
so good.
I want it to come back because it is such a fun show.
And so the top four, so Nini won, who we
Yeah.
know is in TOC. Uh, Kevin Lee, who's also in TOC because he did had a big upset last year. And then Tobias was also in the top four, who we need to talk about because of his, he's healing right now. But then the only other person from the final four that wasn't in the main bracket was Brittany. I'm blanking on her last name. Debbie, do you remember?
Oh,
Anderson?
yeah.
Anderson, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So she was the final two with Nini in Last Bite Hotel, and we were like, oh, like everyone else from the top four is in TOC, like she should be in TOC, and then we see she's in the qualifiers. So that's someone I'm very excited to watch because like before Last Bite Hotel, I barely knew her, and now I'm like a big fan.
Yeah.
You have anything to say?
I mean, all of the above. I do think that, those other contenders had competed in TOC 4 before, so that's why she wasn't a shoe-in,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? And TOC 4, they had competed in some version of TOC before, and that's why she wasn't a shoe-in.
Mhm.
But like I'm not involved in any of the rating or classification of who's what seed and how. I don't know what algorithm that is.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Honestly, like I do believe that there needs to be a certain amount of like fresh blood every year so that
Yes.
we can keep telling incredible stories.
Yeah.
That to me is what TOC is about. Like, yes, 100% it's about seeing some of the greatest chefs in the world do incredible things with food in a moment's notice,
Mhm.
but also learning about somebody through the randomizer.
Mhm.
And, I feel like you're kind of like an Eagle Scout by the end of that show.
Mhm.
Like every element, like you've been battered with, or at least you could work
Mm.
for like the postal service, something like that, It's just like no equipment, no protein, no veggie shall like stay these couriers from deliciousness, or allotment of time, And yeah, I mean, I'm stoked about all of them. Obviously, heartbroken for Huncho. I'm thankful that he is such a spiritual man and that he is so talented
Mhm.
and that he has done so much in his life already. It should be, for somebody like him, recovery is something that should hopefully come, naturally more than to the
Hmm.
average human.
Right.
But when somebody who's a superhuman, it's like that's not my kind of comic book story,
Yeah.
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 So
He
that just
posted
like bums me
his
out.
he posted like a big close-up picture of his scar on Instagram, and it was really shocking. I
Gnarly.
mean, it sounds bad when you get shot, right? But then seeing the actual picture was like, wow. But he's someone that like I feel like because he's a football player, I underestimate him every year because I'm like, oh, he's from sports, And then like every year I'm like reminded, like, oh no, like he's awesome. He beats so many people. And I'm glad that I guess this film before this happens, we can see him this year.
Yeah, I mean, Huncho's got a playbook, and I've seen it, front and center. And while that playbook doesn't always win, that playbook often upsets, and that playbook upsets for a reason. And I'm not going to divulge Huncho's secrets, but like Simon and I believe we have cracked it.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, and like I'm just not going to put that out there.
yeah.
But like he understands cooking in a way that is different from a lot of other people.
Hmm.
mm. Yeah, that's the vibe I get. And it's like it just you can just tell that like everything like it's not always like, the most tweezery or whatever, but you can just tell it just tastes so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we've all had like aluminum foil jerk chicken off of a drum, walking through Bed-Stuy and
Uh-huh.
been like mind blowing
Yeah.
Michelin star, like
Yes.
everything for you, sir. And they're like, it's Irie, man, and like just move on. That's my seasoning and goodbye, and
Yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
I
Totally.
think he's one of the few people that can bring the context of legitimately good flavor and legitimately good cooking to an arena and not get all chef tweezy this is my style, my attitude, my mentality. He's like, I make delicious food first and foremost.
Hmm.
The game, yeah, I'll wedge it in there somehow. But
Right.
it's not
Hmm.
like he's ever trying to put like I don't know. I feel like he's always just trying to cook with like heart and soul first
Yeah.
and deliciousness first and like is it a comforting hug?
Hmm.
And is it like the best back rub you've gotten in a long time? Whereas some chefs are like, does it stimulate your mind? And like,
Yeah, we were watching we were guests on Podchef and we had to watch this episode where I forget the chef's name, but he was like trying he just tried too hard to make like a fence out of sweet potatoes.
Chris Jones. It was
Chris
Chris
Jones, yeah.
Jones.
You're just like, it's just like very opposite of that kind of cooking. It's like the purpose of Huncho's food is to eat well and to enjoy, not to like
Hmm.
be weird for weird sake or like be,
Yeah.
look some way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I in my past, I think I might have been guilty of that. Like I made a Sharknado dish where I like wrapped. I mean, it was tasty, but it was not delicious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
definitely like did no harm.
Yeah.
So I made this shark look like a tornado, and I had all these goldfish floating around in the tornado, like goldfish crackers, and like it was on point. Like, and then I had this like, shark cartilage. Like I made like an eel sauce out of shark cartilage to be like refuse and trees of broccoli torched and blown around.
Ooh.
And like yes, it grabbed headlines,
Yeah.
but like I didn't. Nobody proposed to me after after making that.
I think the difference though, Justin, is that your food always had a sense of humor that I appreciated. Whereas like, a lot of the tweezery chefs or like chefs who make things weird for weird's sake, like n they're not always like as fun and playful as not to like blow smoke or whatever, but
No, well, thanks. I
that's not
understand. I think playfulness is part of it.
yeah. Yeah.
So I know you can't tell us spoilers. You probably can't tell us this, so I'm gonna ask anyway. Is the bracket still East-West?
I can't tell you that because I don't believe it's been revealed.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
But if you use your head and try and divide, like make a little scatter plot of like east west,
Hmm.
I think
Oh.
you might be led to form your own conclusions.
Okay.
Okay, because I mean, I see on Reddit a lot of people were complaining about the East-West bracket. So, just I
I've done my best to amplify Reddit's voice and bring Reddit to the table.
Mhm.
But I'm just talent. What do I know?
so you and Jeff Morrow are the big Food Network Reddit guys. And yeah, we interviewed Jeff Morrow. He was so nice. But yeah, it's and you're both the Food Network star winners, and you guys are both the man of the people in Reddit. Um, okay, so you can't tell us spoilers, I know, but last year you told us we'd be shocked. Just tell us what to expect in your least spoilery way possible for TOC 6. High level.
Yeah, I think this is the one where it's a little less shocked and more like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Or um oh, got it hands down. And then you're like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know."
Oh,
Or
okay.
like, "Whoa, like where did that come from?" Like I feel like there are more tight matches and the I feel like it's always by decision. Like you just don't see a knockout as
Okay.
often as in previous years. And I think as it whittles away, you'll start to see there's no such thing as like luck in TOC, right? But you'll like start to see the people that are starting to figure this game out,
Mm,
and it's not figuring the game out; it's figuring you out.
yeah.
But there are people that have started to figure themselves out in terms of this game.
Hmm.
And I mean, I shouldn't even say game, I should say competition, but ultimately it's you versus the randomizer. It's not you versus the other chef.
Yeah.
And the randomizer makes one of you more subservient.
Well, that was the problem with Manit last year, is it seemed like she knew exactly which notes to hit, and it was like unbeatable. Like she had it down to a science in her head. Like, this is how I do the randomizer. And that was how she beat everybody last year. It wasn't like that her food was necessarily so much better tasting, but she hit the randomizer so much better than the other chefs.
Yeah, you gotta, it's like playing piano. You gotta play with your left and right hand at the same time. And like, I feel like the right side of your brain says to do delicious food, the left side says satisfy the randomizer.
Yeah.
And it's just very difficult to do it well,
Hmm.
and to move your body and move your your mind to do both of those things at once. And I think the more practice you get, and I think Manit, other than maybe Brooke Williamson, I think Manit has more practice playing that piano than anybody else.
Hmm.
Um, so you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think there are also some people that just say like, well, judges didn't like it, like nothing to learn here,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and they generally don't want to come back.
Totally. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. And if a white man wins TOC, I will die, but whatever. Maybe it'll be fine.
You told me not to say shocked.
Okay, so we'll see what happens. And, we're gonna now be wondering the whole time what like the little nods you said, what they meant while we're watching.
Yep.
And yeah, so next week our episode will come out will come out on Wednesday after the first day of qualifiers. So we're gonna recap the first day of qualifiers for next week. Which, it's a big responsibility for me and Debbie to do. As far as I know, we're the only TOC recap podcast at this point. So they should do more, of course. And just we have to wrap up. I know you have to go. You gotta have dad duty. But what is parenting like at this point in your career?
2-year-old just came back from a stint in Flavortown.
Ooh.
Understands FaceTime. Told daycare daddy's in California.
Ooh.
Honored.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just in the old days, I would say like no matter how like deep this slog is, it's like, there's no hero's welcome for going and doing your job, no matter how difficult it is. But seeing that kid and seeing him light up, that was a hero's welcome, hands down, like it's like trumpets coming out of his ears and
Oh.
fanfare from eyes and hair and you know, he like ran up to the dog gate, like
Oh.
So
yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, life is good.
Good.
Does he like any like new foods? Is he in any kind of moods with anything?
He's getting there. He latches onto things. He watches this little cartoon called Bumble Nums
Oh, yeah.
on YouTube. You know about it? Yeah, where they're always cooking something. And I think he's like gotten the idea, but it's very difficult when you're two because you're assembling this like new identity piece by piece, and every time you eat, it's an opportunity to reinvent. And so today it was I don't like eggs, and we're like, son, like. If you didn't like eggs, like you wouldn't be here. Like for a whole year and a half when you were like not super audible and had opinions, you liked eggs. Hate to tell
Right.
you. But yeah, today I don't like eggs. Well, eggs are what we have, buddy.
Um, so I have a question for you. You're wearing, for the people who are listening on Spotify or whatever, you're wearing an awesome bluey hoodie.
Thanks.
Do you have like an favorite episode? Are you in a bluey phase right now at
Yeah,
home?
always. So the silent one, Rain.
Oh,
Ah,
Um,
so cute.
yeah,
yeah.
I think that's pretty much like every adult's favorite, or at least every adult artist's favorite. Um, But just in general, like I'm just here for the inside jokes and the stuff that's not detectable for the kids and
Yeah.
in general, dad, and all the vinyl, all the music,
Mhm.
Hmm.
yeah, all of it, man. Like that show's brilliant, and like I wear this, and I understand that I am a 41-year-old man wearing a cartoon dog shirt. But I also understand that wherever I go, I am the coolest 41-year-old man
Oh,
in like 90% of children's eyes.
oh yeah.
Absolutely. And like,
It's-
come on, we're millennials, like we're cartoons still.
Yeah.
We were in the frozen vegetable aisle the other day, and my daughter, thanks to Bluey, she saw them and she was screaming for edamame beans because there's that episode where Bluey and Bingo eat them. I want edamame beans. We got them for her and she ate them. So thanks, Bluey.
For real, for real.
Okay, so can we quickly, I know you have to go. Can we just quickly say what we're having for dinner tonight, if you know, Justin?
I have no clue. We ate a rather big lunch of ramen today.
Ooh,
We have leftover enchiladas from the Super Bowl. I think those might make a reappearance.
awesome. I am going to have frozen stuff in the air fryer because our kitchen is still getting renovated, but almost done getting renovated. So
Nice.
thank God, and no more air fryer soon. And Debbie?
I'm making nachos I braised a pork butt in root beer and
Ooh.
that. So
Sounds delicious. Okay, well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone listening, please rate, review, subscribe, etc. You can watch us on YouTube. You can go to buymeacoffee.com and buy us a coffee if you want to support the podcast.
of course, send
And we
it if you don't.
yeah, send Debbie hate mail. We love you. We love Justin, who is our new third host, he said before. Remember that. Okay.
And we're going to the White House, baby. Justin
Yeah.
out.
Good
Okay. Thank you so much, Justin. And for now, it's time for us to pack our knives and go.
See ya.
night. Thank you so
Thank you.